just want to let you know about what happened with Hurricane Isaias. So I know how I said that during that time, at least on my other channel, Unfriendly Fire, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But on the channel Unfriendly Fire, I said how during Tropical Storm Isaias, when it came by, I would document it. And what was weird is that on that day, we were supposed to get a lot of wind and a lot of rain. And the radar said that we were supposed to be getting wind and rain. And even when that wind and rain was above us, there was nothing. Even though the models and the radar said otherwise, we didn't really have anything. So unfortunately, there's not going to be anything documented with Hurricane Isaias. What was interesting about Isaias is that during that time when it hit Florida, it was a Category 1, and then it got downgraded to a tropical storm. But once it got to South Carolina and North Carolina, it got upgraded again to a Category 1 before finally turning back to a tropical storm, going north and then dissipating. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to see that happen, but we didn't really get affected. So today I'm going to be talking about absinthe, probably the alcoholic beverage that has the biggest story and the biggest lore that surrounds a beverage. Really, to understand the story of absinthe, we need to go back to its creation back in Switzerland, I believe it was. It was created by Pierre Ordinaire, who created it as basically, a cure-all, a snake oil, if you will. Take it for literally anything that ails you, and then you'll just be cured. One of those things. He was a French doctor, and I believe that's probably why the story of absinthe probably became a little bit demonized. Now, later on, people thought that absinthe was basically liquid LSD laced with PCP, and if you were to drink it, it would make you hallucinate. However, we do know that back in those times, there was no regulation, right? Like, you couldn't just have a breathalyzer, you couldn't really have any techniques to tell whether or not you were really f***ed up. Like, you could walk up to someone and say, "I'm not drunk," and you'd clearly be stumbling around, you don't know what's going on, and the most they could do is just take your word for it, like, yeah, surprise, surprise, people who are alcoholics are usually not good at telling the truth and are usually full of shit. Not only that, but back in those times, regulations were light, assuming that there were really much regulations at all in the first place. But they were also using toxic chemicals, the alcohol was highly overproofed, and in some instances when it came to absinthe, if you'll ever look at it, it's kind of a greenish color, and a lot of distillers were actually using copper salts, otherwise known as bath salts, which basically was a reason why people would act like they were on LSD laced with PCP and would lose their f***ing mind. But what really pushed people over the edge, assuming that absinthe was just this beverage that would make you go crazy and kill all your families, was the Landfray murders. And basically the story was, the man was a drunk, he was drinking absinthe, and we don't know if the absinthe actually had copper salts in them, but nonetheless, they definitely were not being regulated, and there definitely probably was copper salts, and who knows what other toxic chemicals in there, as well as just being highly overproofed. He was a drunk, he had reportedly had a lot of alcohol that day, and he ended up getting angry, got a rifle, shot his family, and then tried to take his own life, but he failed miserably. And that's really what led to everyone assuming that absinthe was just horrific drink that would make you kill your family and all these other things. The ingredient that people thought, strangely enough, was the wormwood used in absinthe. Everyone thought for whatever reason, like, that is the plant that will make you hallucinate. And I really do think that because it was created by Pierre Ordinaire, a French doctor, everyone thought that, oh, he was clearly putting in all these medicinal items that were meant to make you hallucinate. Like, that was his intention the entire time. I have no way to prove that, but I think that that definitely has something to do with it. Then back in the 80s and 90s, science said that no, absinthe won't make you hallucinate. The wormwood thing is total BS. It's safe to drink, and regulations finally lifted up and we could drink it. But anyways, now it's time to talk about how to properly make absinthe. Now I'm going to say this right off the bat, the way how you would traditionally make absinthe is something I'm actually not a fan of, because personally, when you make absinthe the traditional way, you water it down and add sugar, and personally to me, that tastes like it's kind of diet, and I'm not a fan of the diet taste. On top of that, when you water it down, it also just kind of adds to the, for me personally, the disgusting kind of flavor of it. Personally, I'm not a fan of my foods or drink either tasting watered down or diet. I can't do it. So I'm gonna teach you what you can do in order for you to actually make the drink the traditional way. Now you're gonna need a couple things. Now the first thing you're gonna need is an absinthe dripper. If you don't have one, you can get one online. You actually don't need it, but basically an absinthe dripper is, think of it like one of those water spigot things where they're kind of grooved and they have, like, you know, special slots and all that, and they really only serve one purpose: to slowly drip water into the beverage of absinthe. You're also going to need a sugar cube. If you don't have a sugar cube, 3 teaspoons of sugar is the equivalent, I believe. If not, I'll put it up on screen, and I'll also make sure to convert anything to metric. You can use like a spoon that has some holes in it, and if you don't have that, you can always just get yourself a fine mesh strainer. And if you don't have that, then just go out and get something. Like, it's not that expensive to get like a fine mesh strainer or a spoon with a couple holes poked into it. I'm pretty sure you can find that with ease. Now in regards to a dripper, if you actually don't have a dripper, then you can always just have one of those water jug containers with the spigots on the end. If you don't have that, just go over to the sink and then just barely drip some water over it every now and then. The way how you would traditionally make absinthe is that if you had the dripper, you would put the sugar cube and you would let it slowly drip into the drink. Now if you don't have a dripper, just put, let's say if you have a spoon, just put the cube on the spoon, put it over the glass of absinthe, and you would drip it. And if you don't have, of course, a spoon, just take the fine mesh strainer, get the sugar, drip it into the absinthe. Now the amount of absinthe you're actually going to need is about a shot's worth. So basically what you're looking for is 1 part absinthe and then 4 to 5 parts of water. So yeah, you're pretty much diluting the drink and adding the sugar. Again, I'm not a fan of that because to me it kind of tastes watered down diet nastiness, which I'm just not a fan of. So typically what I'll do is I'll just get a glass and I'll fill it up to like this much, all right, about to here. Again, it's not too much. Now I will say something else about absinthe is that compared to a lot of the other drinks you can find out there, it is pretty expensive. The bottle that I have is the Lucid Absinthe. Now there are 2 things special about the Lucid Absinthe Superior, which is what I'm using. One is that it is a genuine absinthe. Now a lot of the things out there you'll find with absinthe brands is that they're not genuine because they don't contain all the ingredients. Now something to note about genuine absinthe is that it's not really easy to come by. A lot of the brands out there are not considered true absinthes because they are not what's considered a holy trinity, and this is. So a holy trinity in this case is going to have 3 ingredients, which is the fennel, it is going to have green anise, and it is going to have wormwood, which all of this does end up having. So this is a holy trinity compared to most brands out there which are not. So 1, this is already special because it is a true absinthe, but 2, this is the first genuine absinthe, I should say, that was legalized here in the United States of America. So this is definitely a very special brand, and it's also pretty expensive. A bottle of rum I have up there is going to be like $20–$30-ish, I believe. Not only that, but that bottle of rum contains probably, who knows, probably twice as much as this, and that's like $20–$30-ish. This is about $60 for a little bit less alcohol. So yeah, trust me, this bottle is very expensive, especially if it's brand in particular. I can probably find another brand out there that isn't too expensive, but absinthe is definitely not cheap. So again, I've already kind of told you how you make the absinthe. Basically what you do is you take a shot's worth of absinthe, put it into a glass, drip some water over it, over a sugar cube, about 3 teaspoons, or a sugar cube's worth of water. You're gonna let that sugar dissolve into the absinthe, and it's gonna again give it kind of a watered down, sugary, almost kind of diet taste. To me personally, again, I'm not a fan of it. But I am kind of a fan of drinking it, again, kind of up to here, not a lot of it. And again, compared to a lot of the other alcohols you find out there, a lot of whiskeys are going to be about 40 ABV, and this is going to be at least 60 ABV. Now this brand right here is actually 62% ABV, and we're talking Everglitter territory, alright? And it is very, very strong. That's why I don't usually have a lot of it. Now I do have a chaser shot over here full of milk because I was just kind of eating, and I decided why not just save some in there, so that way when I'm taking a swig of this, I can have a little bit of a chaser shot. Now some of the notes to look for absinthe is that it has a licorice flavor. It's kind of bitter, but it is kind of overpowering with the other flavors of licorice. So I don't really detect much of a bitter, but it is kind of a licorice, sweetish flavor. A little bit of bitter, but it's kind of hard for me to detect that anyways, and I'm not a bitter person. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a small glass. Now you can drink it straight, there's nothing saying that you can't, but the traditional way is, again, you would drip it over. This is kind of dripping out, and I'm kind of upset because this is not cheap, but that's the most I'm gonna go. Because again, it's very expensive, and it is very highly proof, and it definitely has a strong flavor to it. So I'm not gonna go any more than this. In fact, that's probably a little bit too much, so I better drink it because this stuff is not cheap. But anyways, as you can tell, that this kind of has a neat little green kind of tinge to it. Again, some people would probably use copper salts back in the times when it wasn't regulated to give it the green color, and of course that's what caused people to go insane. But there was nothing really toxic about this drink other than the fact that it was just alcoholic. But it's just the fact that people added toxic chemicals and they were highly overproofing it is what really caused people to become murderers. Now, I'm gonna go and switch angles again, and you're gonna watch me drink with the chaser shot, and yeah, let's get on to that. So the camera is running a little bit low on battery, but I got the absinthe, and I've got my chaser shot, which is a little bit of leftover milk. And let's get into it. Now again, this is actually a very kind of high proof, not extremely high, but it's definitely higher than what you might typically drink. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna definitely drink this a little bit slower because this is definitely a much more intense drink than what I usually handle. So I'm gonna be taking a little bit smaller sips, but it is definitely much stronger than what I'm typically used to. But anyways, cheers. Let me tell you, it burns like hell. And I think I took a little bit of a too big sip there. So when you drink this stuff straight, try and start with smaller sips. Don't go all in because it is a much higher proof alcohol. And especially if you're taking a shot with this compared to most whiskeys, it would f you up a lot quicker than on my birthday. So keep that in mind. In fact, give me a moment, real quick. Well, there's that. We're going to get a couple of crackers going because I think that'll kind of help. With one of them, I'm going to have a different chaser shot because I'm about to run out of this, but I'm going to need another one. So, something a little bit sweeter. Anyways, next. Whew. Yeah, it's definitely strong. So you want to sip it if you're going to drink it straight because it is definitely a stronger drink. And again, the flavor is kind of licorice, a little bitter, but not too overly bitter. I can handle it. Because that licorice flavor definitely kind of offsets it a lot, so yeah. But I'm trying to take little sips at a time, but I also don't want the battery to burn out on my camera because it doesn't last very long, unfortunately. I'll definitely have to figure out a way to extend it. Having a chaser, though, is a really good idea to have with any high-proof alcohol, like absinthe or any other whiskeys, for example. Now, one other thing that I will say is that I am working on a project for my channel. I don't really have it done yet. I'm actually in the process of editing it. I've been kind of slacking off about it, but I do have some other plans. And started raining. Wow, it's actually coming down. Holy shit. Yeah, it's coming down. Yeah, I guess it just started raining, but as I was saying, I do have a couple plans going on for my channel. I am working on kind of like a little big project. I know I said little big, but it is a little project, but I hope it'll go somewhere. It's been kind of hard for me to really get some good shots of anything because again, the area that I live in does not really get any thunderstorms for whatever reason. But I've been definitely trying to figure out, you know, what would look good, what might people want to see, and I think I've definitely got some neat little projects going on. If you like watching me having a drink, then you should definitely follow me on Unfriendly Fire on YouTube, because I'm starting to introduce a lot more streams where I do some things drunk, and I think that is kind of fun. I've actually been trying to get a Rocket League video out, because I'm getting into that game recently, where every single time I score, get an assist, or win a game, I have to like take a sip of something. And I was doing good until the internet always fucks me over, so. Ooh. Geez, that one hit hard. Again, always have a chaser shot. The more you drink, the more, and I know that kind of sounds wrong, but of course, the more you kind of end up drinking this stuff, the more you kind of get used to it. Of course, I don't encourage anyone to go out and constantly drink, but I will say that that really is kind of one of the main ways how you get used to it and learn how to manage it. Of course, again, I don't recommend it because, of course, if you overindulge yourself, of course, that's alcohol poisoning. Not to mention, when you're getting really drunk, it can cause some issues. So keep that in mind, that if you do want to get better, you definitely do need to kind of drink a little bit more, but of course, drink responsibly. Always drink responsibly. Know your limits. Don't try to go past it. And if you do try and drink a little bit more than you should, see if you have a friend nearby that is willing to kind of be there in case you do something dumb and drink way too much and you get yourself into trouble. Of course, don't drink and drive, don't operate machinery. I'm just staying here at home. I'm not planning to go anywhere. And of course, make sure that you are of the age of 21 if you're here in the United States of America, and anywhere else it's like 18 or whatever. But drink at the right age, be responsible. I shouldn't have to say this, but no one ever wants to listen, let's be real. Battery's running low on my camera. I believe it's kind of automatically stopped recording after 30 minutes. So it's been 30 minutes. So I'm gonna finish this up, but thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out my other channel that I mentioned down below. I'm gonna finish this up, and then after I finish it up, I'll probably be active on that channel. I'll probably be streaming some Rocket League. But anyways, I will see you all later. I will definitely make sure to get some other projects done.